Sumantra, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Sumantra, you used to work at the National Interest, then you worked at the American Conservative.
Yes.
And you have played a significant role, if perhaps underestimated somewhat by the media, in determining Trump foreign policy vis-a-vis Europe. Now, you wrote a provocative and highly read piece in Foreign Affairs called essentially The Case for a Dormant NATO.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, I won't go that far as to say I played a significant role. And you were my mentor. You forgot to mention that in CFD&I. You got me here. So fundamentally, dormant NATO, which is parts of it you can see in the National Security Strategy, it has got three pillars. One, I don't want to go to the historical background as to why it is needed. Obviously, because of structural reasons, the U.S. Relative power of the U.S. declined vis-a-vis China and Russia. But fundamentally, dormant NATO has got three pillars. One, burden shifting, which, as you obviously know, no one talks about burden sharing anymore. The thing has changed. The dynamic of the debate has changed to burden shifting now. So burden shifting is one of the pillars of dormant NATO. It came out in dormant NATO first, where we shift all the conventional deterrence to Europeans, other than the nuclear power and the naval power, the Second Fleet, which is based there. So that's one. Second pillar of dormant NATO is a pause on all NATO expansion. NATO needs to be a closed defensive club, and it needs to shut its gate. Because if you don't have a fixed entity, if you have a mutating entity, then you cannot have a fixed grand strategy for that entity. So it's quite logical that you would have to close the gates of NATO. So, the curse of geography, if you're out of it, you're out of it, tough luck. But if you're in, you're safe. The third pillar of NATO, dormant NATO, is no out-of-area operations. So NATO was a defensive institution. It needs to go back to being a defensive institution, not in Serbia or Libya. That's not in the remit of NATO. No tweets about, social issues or democracy. Again, that is not a remit of NATO. So fundamentally, these are the three, pillars of dormant NATO. One, burden shifting, conventional deterrence to the Europeans, closing the gates of NATO from any further enlargement, and no out-of-area operations. From what we have seen so far in this new administration and in the new security strategy doctrine or the national defense strategy, the first two pillars seems to be, are the two things that the administration is looking into. I wouldn't say it is because of dormant NATO, but I would say that it very, it parallels the policy suggestions that was in dormant NATO paper. So NATO expansion and no NATO expansion and conventional burden shifting.
Now, your take on NATO is very much in the spirit of realists such as George F. Kennan, is it not?
Kennan was perhaps a little bit more restrained compared to me. I definitely do think he's a realist. There's no question about it. He's also a little bit more social conservative when it comes to NATO, which I'm not. I do think NATO is important. There are some on the realist and restrained side of political, political science, who would go as far as to say that U.S. doesn't need NATO. The United States can just come out of NATO and things are going to be fine. Possibly it would be fine, but it would also mean a return of some very older elements of European statecraft, which we haven't seen for around 100 years now. And whether that is a good or a bad thing is something for history to say. I wouldn't be that confident to claim that it would be a walk in the park. So I'm a little different, my suggestions would be a little different. I would go back to the original intention of NATO. NATO is a good institution as long as it works. It hasn't been working in the last 20, 30 years. And to return to a more original, conventional idea of the defense alliance is something that everyone should aspire to do. This simple idea of conventional burden shifting is not difficult. Like in 1989, you have seen Western European powers who used to spend a whole bunch of money on the defense. Elbridge Colby constantly talks about Germany. It's a classic example. In 1989, Germany had 12 divisions of army. Now they don't. The reason they don't is because we have incentivized them not to have. Part of the reason is their frontiers have moved east. They have got buffers between them and Russia. Why on earth? There are American men who are guarding the Baltic states. Why would a Western European nation, a powerful Western European nation like France or Germany or the United Kingdom, spend more on their defense and not on their social policies when they have other people guarding their borders?
So the Germans did send troops to the Baltics.
They did. It's 4,000 people. So it's the 45th Panzer Brigade, which is now in Lithuania, after a lot of coaxing. And that's a good thing. I think that is partly because they are facing pressure of American withdrawal, and I think that is incentivizing them, which again proves the point. Like, at the end of the day, regardless of what a state says, how much threat it actually feels is revealed in its preferences. If Germany is spending money again on defense and sending troops to guard the borders, which means they are actually facing the pressure, which means the pressure works and we should keep doing it.